Ghanaian authorities are investigating after 3 people were left dead by the collapse of a three-storey church building in capital Accra on Sunday. In the wake of the disaster, the country's Interior Minister Muntaka Mohammed-Mubarak said 20 others, most of them women and children, had been rescued and were being treated in various hospitals. For more on this, we joined on the line by correspondent in Ghana, Mawuena Egbeta. Eric, a very good evening to you. So just tell us exactly what happened.
Right, and so Sunday at about 3 p.m. In Newtown, to be specific, it's a suburb of the capital, Accra, a building which had been put up since 2012, 14 years ago, as part of construction towards school buildings left abandoned, came tumbling down. At the time it came tumbling down, there were individuals who were taking occupancy there for church service. As at that 3 p.m., which is roughly 5 p.m. SA time, and it came tumbling down. Having been to the site myself, having had conversations with residents who live in and around the place, the conversations and what they tell us was that, look, the structure was weak. It had been weak for quite some time, and they had cause to raise concerns as to the integrity of the structure. To be specific, despite that situation, students continue to use it. In fact, some of the students we spoke to tell us that as at Saturday, before the Sunday when the building came tumbling down, they had cause to be using the building as part of extracurricular activities towards the preparation for junior high school examinations, which is run across the country. In fact, what we've also learned from the municipal assembly and authorities there who've been speaking and relaying information to the Interior Minister suggests that, look, officials from the town and country planning as well as resident engineers had cause to warn persons in and around the area to stay away from that particular structure because the integrity was questionable, only for persons to return to the place again for use of church service, and then it collapsed. When it collapsed, the first respondents were community members who resorted to hammers and chisels to push away and chisel away some of the concrete blocks, and were able to rescue 6 persons before the officials of the National Fire Service as well as the 48th Engineer Regiment of the Ghana Armed Forces as well as the police and other security agencies, the National Ambulance Service, all came readily on board to begin to provide assistance to them. One of the individuals who was initially rescued, who we understand was the head pastor of the church, succumbed to the injuries from the crash, which took the death toll to 3, with 20 others injured. Initially as well, there were concerns some persons could have still been under the rubble, but as of today, the debris has been cleared completely from the area as investigations are continuing into what may have occurred into that unfortunate accident.
So as I'm hearing you say, Eric, that not only was this building being used for church services, it was also being used as school premises, and that the problems have been persistent for a while now. Is there anybody that has been pointed to as having to be the one that should take accountability? Because as I mentioned in the introduction, 3 people, 1 male, 2 females are reported as dead. Is this still the death toll? But just tell me, where are fingers being pointed, if at all?
Let me start off first with the death toll. So it continues to remain at 3. We've seen that the vice president and other state officials visited both the scene of the accident and as well the victims at the respective hospitals. The report we've got from those visits is that they've been responding well to treatments, and so it doesn't suggest that toll could go up. In terms of fingers being pointed, straight away, the resident engineers within the local assembly there have had to answer very serious questions, and as well as persons within the Ghana Education Service, because this is a school infrastructure to start off with, which persons resorted to use as a local church. And so it's a school to start off with, which was under construction, was not completed. Funds were not allocated to it to be completed since 2012, and it was left to the vagaries of the weather, which deteriorated the building. And so, one, the resident engineers within the local municipalities are being asked why they did not warn outside of the caution they say they provided to school authorities and even the persons who attended the church. Many are asking questions or suggesting that this could be an afterthought in the aftermath of the incident as well. And as well, the Ghana Education Service, like I mentioned, because close by is another four-story building, which is also a classroom building, which, according to the experts who came onto the ground at the 48th Engineers Regiment of the Ghana Armed Forces, they say that, look, that four-story building, which continues to remain untouched, also has structural integrity issues, and are asking that, if possible, that be brought down by bulldozers and others to prevent a foreseeable accident of such a nature. And so, in the immediacy, these are the two agencies who are being asked to answer some questions. Yesterday, we understand the Ghana Education Services National Directorate was holding a meeting with respect to the integrity of the structures, and as well, the officials of the resident engineers within the local municipality as well have had some questions to answer.
Eric, just how common are these church accidents, particularly in Ghana? In Africa, we know it is a problem. Often hastily constructed structures by people who, in some cases, are not even legally in the country. And just even how they come together to, be adorned with the title of an official church is sometimes in question. And I want to know how big the problem, if at all, it is in Ghana.
Well, it's a twin problem you mentioned. And so, one, we've had a challenge in the country with respect to building permits and right certifications being given for the construction of buildings. Because over the last 4 years, we've had close to 10 building collapses in the country. Some churches, residential buildings, schools at some point in time, and all of these have had questions being asked. There's been investigations in the past as to finding outcomes and guiding policy decisions going forward to prevent such occurrences. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to have provided or yielded any result. And again, this happened and investigations are being conducted into it. The Interior Minister said this should be the last of such instances where we have a collapse of such a nature, persons dying, and assurances of things changing. There's been assurance that, look, this time around they'll seek to enforce these recommendations that will come out of this investigation. But building collapses is not something that we would say is completely new to us in the country, because over the last 4 years, and if you go back beyond the last 4 years, outside of 2022, then you say we've hit 10 buildings over the last 10 years, to be precise, losing close to 10 plus individuals as well in the line of it, with several others injured, all as a result of building collapses. It speaks to challenges with certification and permits within the local assemblies, where we understand bribes are offered sometimes for persons to circumvent the process of thorough inspection, amongst other things. But that's the latest assurance. A lot of people are not entirely convinced, but as with all things, the expectation from the citizens is to wait and see if indeed these latest will be adopted.
Certainly from an optics point of view, it would seem as if it is being taken seriously by, the higher ups. If we saw visits from the Interior Minister and the Vice President, given the time that it is, this particular accident occurs during a Palm Sunday, service. And I'm just wondering, and if it's the same area that I seem to remember thinking it is, there's a high volume of churchgoers in that area, and there seems to be quite a number of buildings that have church services there. Do you think that there will be alacrity, some sort of speed in ensuring that the integrity of the remaining structures are looked into to prevent further death traps?
Absolutely. It's one of the things that's been spoken to by a number of persons in the aftermath of this incident, not just the flowery speeches as to this not happening again, and us taking lessons from it. People want to see practicality because remember, this is not the first time we're having a building collapse. We've had an entire shopping complex collapse some 10 years ago. In the aftermath of that, like I mentioned, close to 10 buildings have collapsed separately. And there's been all of these flowery speeches which have come through. It's coincided with the present administration's promise of a reset of procedure practices within Ghana's policy and politics. And people are asking and pointing fingers that if you say you came on the back of a reset in winning the 2024 elections, this presents you a good enough opportunity to reset in terms of the building and housing aspects of Ghana's society as well. Let's see speed, let's see alacrity, let's see action being taken in the immediacy such that it's not just all talk. And this has been from across the breadth, the length and breadth of the political divide. Persons within this government themselves have made such statements. And for now, we've seen the debris cleared under 24 hours, which for a lot of people comes off as a bit impressive considering we've seen others take longer. And so it suggests that perhaps there could be a bit of urgency in it. But like I say, with all things, it will be to adopt a wait-and-see approach when it comes to politics and governance in these parts of the world.
Eric, thank you very much. Correspondent in Accra, Ghana, Mawuena Egbeta, speaking to us about this latest incident, a church building collapse on Sunday. He says it happened about 5 p.m. SAST, 3 people dead, dozens more injured, have been treated in hospital, and high-level delegation going to visit. But it is a problem because he says these warnings have been ongoing since 2012. But most importantly, church people are a great constituency when politicians want to knock on their doors to get votes for upcoming elections. But we know this is unfortunately a tragedy we see way too often on the African continent. It is 19 minutes past 9.